So, Mr. Jones, thank you for coming out this evening. We're excited to have you on.
Hey guys, my pleasure. I'm glad you could come to the baseball game.
And a little disclaimer for the audience before we get started. We are at a Kirkland High School baseball game. So any sounds you hear is hopefully Cavaliers winning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to get started, where are we from?
So I was born in Charlottesville, Virginia. I was raised in Greene County. So I went to William Monroe High School. It's a lot like the size of Carroll. Yeah. About the same number of kids, same kind of demographic and sports and everything. Yeah.
So did you play sports in high school?
I did. I ran cross country. I swam, indoor, outdoor track, and I was real into soccer. So I was playing soccer just about year round.
Were you very academic? Did you have good grades in school?
Oh yeah, both my parents taught in my high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about having your nose to the grindstone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I did pretty well academically. Yep.
Were you successful in sports? Did you want to play in college?
Initially I was interested in playing college sports, but over time the academics got good enough that I could go to a really good college. Yeah. So I chose to go to a really good college rather than play, maybe Division III ball or something somewhere else. So academics were a little more important.
And how long were you running for in high school? Was that all the way through?
Yeah. So I started my freshman year. It ended up being pretty quick because I've been playing soccer since I was 8. So they kind of shoved me into that top 3 spot pretty quick.
So what's your PR?
For a 5K, I ran a 17:30.
That's fast.
Oh, don't give me that because half of the course was downhill.
Really?
So it was pretty easy.
A time's a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did you go to college?
I did undergrad and grad school at the University of Virginia. So that was like 20 minutes away from my hometown.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Always go home for a mom cooked meal,
And did you get a full scholarship to UVA?
No, I didn't. But that's kind of standard. That place is crazy academically, so I was just happy to get in.
Yeah.
So what was the admissions process for UVA like? Was it pretty?
It was fairly competitive, but I did really well academically at high school. So the way they like to tell you is that you're really only competing against the people in your own school, which is fairly true, right? They allocate spots for all these high schools. But I did well enough academically that I had a pretty good certainty I was going to get in there.
Was the SAT a pretty big part of that process?
It was. At that time, the standardized tests were huge. So I took the SAT probably 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
I started taking it in middle school just to have the test prep to know it.
Yeah.
And I took the ACT when I was a junior. Did a lot better on that one because that's a little more like a test taker's dream. Yeah, it's an easier test, All right, hang on. I got to do a deuces thing. You got to watch me. Pull. All right.
You gotta say it louder now.
This is what I meant by
Oh,
mic'd up.
It's fine. It's
Anyone?
entertaining.
There are a bunch of dunderheads in here, but that's okay. Pull. They're really building this up though, so when I don't get it, I'm gonna feel pretty bad.
Yeah.
Pull. I told you guys. I'm sorry. What do you expect? We do this every time. Huh? 4.
I don't know.
All right, I'll come around.
Okay.
No problem.
Give me just a minute, boys. All right. Sorry, guys.
No problem at all.
Oh yeah, he's fine. He jammed his finger.
So I think we were talking about
UVA.
UVA. So did you know what you were going to go into when you applied for college?
So that's a funny story, right? When I was in high school, the first 2 years, I was going to be an engineer and go to Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my athletic trainer at my high school ended up being my soccer coach and my neighbor. So I spent way too much time with him, and he talked me into going to UVA to be an athletic trainer. Yeah. Both my parents were Hokies.
Oh.
So the fact that I
You betrayed them.
betrayed the family,
Yeah.
they got over it. Mom liked it because I was literally 20 minutes from the house.
Yeah.
But it's a funny story.
Did they grow up around UVA or were they more Southwest Virginia?
So both my parents actually are from this area. My dad graduated from Carroll County here with Darren and Steve Combs, the JV coach. And my mom was born, well not born, but she was raised in Freeze.
Okay.
Yeah, back then Freeze had a high school. I'm aging my mother, but you know. So they met in community college at Whitful, and then they transferred over to Virginia Tech together.
Okay, yeah. That's
And
cool.
then Greene County was the first place that would hire 2 new teachers right out the gate. So they just kind of moved out there because that was the best opportunity they had. And then it's just settled down from there.
So you decided that you were going to go in for personal training.
Athletic training.
Athletic training, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, man.
What
Everybody
specifically
can
did
use
you
that.
major in?
So at UVA, the best route to do that is to go kinesiology in your undergrad.
Okay.
And that's a really long, fun word to say, but it essentially just means you're studying the human body in motion. And included in that is courses like nutrition and exercise physiology and biomechanics, anatomy, physiology, all the kind of fun hands-on classes like that. So that's the undergrad route. And then to be an athletic trainer nowadays, you have to have a master's degree. So you end up going to an accredited master's program. And I was lucky enough to be one of the first in the first cohort in UVA's Masters of Athletic Training program.
Yeah. So what was that major? That master's in?
It's literally called Masters of Athletic Training.
Oh, wow,
they
okay.
had
Yeah.
to create it
Specific.
just for that because the governing body over all athletic training kind of shifted everything really quick to a master's level. And when they did that, colleges and universities really didn't know where to put it because it wasn't a traditional like medical degree. It was something they had to kind of make into these exercise physiology programs. So they literally just say MSAT, Masters of Science in Athletic Training.
So you spent 6 years at UVA?
Yeah, 6 years, 6 long years.
Can you talk a little bit about your experiences there? Did you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. College is an amazing experience, and it ends up being whatever you want to make it into. I was blessed enough to get to work with sports teams at UVA right out the gate.
That's what I was going to ask you.
I spent a semester where I was working in just the clinic, helping kids that would come in and going to practices when I could, but for the most part, I was in the clinic. And then that next spring, come on, get under it. Atta baby, Crockett. That next spring, I ended up getting placed with the women's lacrosse team, which was a national championship contending team. So I got lugged all over the country with that team, and it was great. We made a Final Four appearance, got absolutely demolished by Syracuse, but it's okay. But that's a big reason why I'm an athletic trainer. You get to be a part of their little family and their successes and their failures, and it's addicting. You get kind of ingrained with them.
So you mentioned the rowing team to me a few times.
I did,
Did you ever
yeah.
work with them?
So I did get to work with them. The way it worked for UVA, you ended up working with a different team each semester or each year. You had your choice. So the second year I was there, I was with the cross country and track and field teams. The third year I got split between football and the rowing. So the fall I was with football and the spring I was rowing. And that is another ridiculously successful program. I mean, they've probably won ACCs 23 out of the last 25 years. I mean, they're just astoundingly successful. And they are impressive people. That's a pretty brutal sport. Running's hard. I think rowing might actually be harder. It's just such a mental game of like, God, this sucks. How do I keep doing this for another 1,500 meters? But they, heads up, heads up, heads up. Ooh. Almost, Owen. They ended up placing third that year. They're impressive. And because of Title IX, UVA only has a varsity women's program. That's kind of the counter to football. So Title IX, you have to have an equal number of men's and women's sports. So they counter football with a varsity rowing women's program.
Some colleges do that with triathlon.
They do, yes. Which is kind of a shame. I'd love to have a men's program there as well, but you got to do what you got to do to be compliant.
So was this volunteer? Or was this a paid position?
Was it
There was
required part of
a
the classes?
quote-unquote stipend. It wasn't very much, but it's kind of paying it forward, right? Like those clinical opportunities are what get you into grad school. So I was going to do it regardless. You just had to keep your grades straight, or you weren't going to be allowed to do it. That's a quick half inning. Love to see it.
you've helped us out a lot with running.
Sure.
How was working with cross country and track teams different? Like working with runners different than other
It's
sports?
different. It's very different. They're actually some of the toughest people on the planet, even though sometimes they don't seem like it. If you think about the motor pattern of the sport, like every sport pretty much runs a little bit, but when that's the only thing you're doing and the only thing you're thinking about, your own head gets in the way.
Absolutely.
A lot of the time. You got to have a really good headspace to be a good runner, because what you're doing sucks.
Yeah.
Again and again and again and again. So a lot of it is trying to talk kids into like understanding that, like you're probably not going to feel 100% every time you run. It's a game of like, how can I be successful with what percentage I have today and still get training in and still get work done?
There's definitely, because there's always something that's hurting a little bit.
Oh, if it's not, you're not running hard
Yeah,
enough, right, baby?
Absolutely.
So after UVA, after undergrad and grad school, what did you do?
So after grad school, we have to sit for a certification exam. For us, it's called the BOC.
Okay.
I passed that. It was another test, right? I was pretty good at taking tests in high school and college, so that one wasn't too much of a hassle. But my first job out of grad school was at Ferrum College.
Okay.
Got hired on as an assistant athletic trainer, working primarily with women's soccer, women's basketball, track and field, cross country, baseball.
Yeah.
So most of the sports that I kind of knew and loved already. And I loved Ferrum. It's a community a lot like Hillsville, right? It's small, it's kind of tucked up in the mountains, but it's full of good people and good opportunity.
After Ferrum, what did you do?
After Ferrum, I got hired here.
Okay, yeah.
That's cool.
Tell us about your time here.
When COVID hit, I was still employed by Ferrum, and that kind of changed the way college sports worked for me.
Yeah.
I started inheriting a lot of COVID testing responsibilities, and it's just a lot.
Yeah.
It's not the fun stuff, right? I don't want to tell kids I can't let them play.
Yeah.
And I saw an opening come up for Carroll County High School, and all of my extended family's still here, so I kind of jumped at the opportunity and interviewed and got offered and moved that next week.
So how long did you work at Ferrum? And then
I was there about 2.5 years.
okay. And then
Yep.
how long have you worked here?
Here, this is the first full year I've been here. I started in January of 22.
Okay.
But I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
Can you talk about how working with high school students is different than working with college students?
Yeah.
It is different, right? You guys are still kids.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you guys are still kids. But I get to treat you like adults. But there's certain things I need your parents' permission for.
Yeah.
That's the main difference. But even at a college level, they're just older kids, right? They're still trying to learn how to be adults.
Yeah.
The biggest thing being a high school athletic trainer is you end up being kind of on your own. I'm the only athletic trainer for Carroll County. Not just the high school, Carroll County.
Yeah.
And that's fine, right? Everybody understands that. But you got to learn everything you possibly can about every sport that we have. So I don't have a lot of wrestling exposure, right? I just didn't have it clinically growing up. So it was a bit of a learning curve for me this year to kind of pick up some of the... Jack got hit by a pitch.
Oh.
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine.
And you're also a teacher here, correct?
Yeah.
So that has to be a different experience. They teach the class, right?
You would think that. But Carroll County is just, they mimicked the way that my high school did athletic training. My athletic trainer was my sports medicine teacher. So when I got hired here, I was fully prepared to do that. Even when I was at Ferrum, I was an adjunct professor in our human performance department. So I knew how to teach,
Yeah.
and I like teaching. I can talk to anybody.
Did your experience in college prepare you for teaching at all, or is it just something you knew how to do?
That's actually a good point. The unique thing about UVA is that they're, dang it, get the bunt down. They kind of tuck the kinesiology department into their school of education.
Okay.
So yeah, like I took human growth and development, I took child psychology, I took abnormal psych, right? I took a lot of these courses that you're going to have to take to be a teacher anyways. So the whole credentialing process was pretty seamless for me.
Is there an exam you have to take to teach in the state of Virginia?
So yes, there is the praxis exam, but I'm not, it gets a little different with career and technical education. So in the state of Virginia, way to get it down. It's they tuck sports medicine into the career and technical education divisions. So some of your credentialing stuff is a little different. It's not looking like I got to take a praxis, which if I do, I'll take it. It's no problem.
Yeah.
But they let your professional experience kind of count as your student
License.
teaching.
Yeah.
It's counting within your licensure process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were an adjunct professor at
Sure.
Ferrum.
Yeah.
What did you teach exactly?
It was literally the same class I teach now.
Okay.
Yeah, just dialed back a little bit, or well, a little more difficult for the college level.
Yeah.
So it was for Ferrum. I can't even see it. It's foul though. It might be out of here, but it's foul. They called it athletic injuries. Right? Instead of calling it sports medicine, it was athletic injuries. So you would teach them some foundational anatomy and then some of the hot spot injuries for the various body parts that you'd cover. It's a very similar class to what I teach right now, which is kind of cool because you can sneak a college level class into some high schoolers and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
Is it difficult dealing with kids that really are not interested in the class? How do you work around that?
Well, just about everybody likes this class because it's fun, and it's usually about sports. So most everybody likes sports. They tend to be entertained, whether they know they're being entertained or not. And I will say, nice heads up. I will say that our student services department does a good job of not putting kids in there that aren't going to get something out of it. It's definitely a team-based approach of what will the kid enjoy taking, and how are they not going to tick me off.
Everyone I've talked to has loved taking your class.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I like teaching it, man. It's fun. Right?
You're idolized here at the high school too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Especially by the guys on the baseball team.
Yeah, baseball
They're
team.
a bunch of
and,
goofballs.
Like when we went to Richmond for their state tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did my best to ignore them.
Yeah. They try to get your attention multiple times. Yeah.
So to go into your job a little bit more as a personal trainer, the technical aspects of it,
Yeah.
when a kid comes up to you and says, this hurts, and just points, I mean, what's the process? How do you start to diagnose and to treat?
Oh, buddy, there's a whole clinical education for that. But there's always patterns, right? Like most of the time, the kids that walk through the door are going to have pretty similar issues. Knowing your sport, your age, and what body part bothers you, I can probably give you a really quick, short list of what's going on. But then just talking to them, right? Like everything starts with a conversation. So to be a good athletic trainer, right, you got to be able to talk to people, right? And you got to be able to convince Johnny when his ankle's 4 times the size it's supposed to be that, he's not dying. He's going to be okay. He just needs to tell you where it hurts, So you start there, and then a lot of times it's a pretty quick decision of like, is this somebody I can get back out there, or is this something that I got to pull him off, take him off somewhere and really talk to him to figure out what's going on?
And what's like the line between what an athletic trainer can handle and what an orthopedic doctor has to handle?
Sure. I kind of end up being the go-between for parents and doctors, right? Because not everything needs to go to a doctor. Fractures usually go to doctors. If it's stitches, go to doctors, right? I'm not licensed to do that. But torn ligaments, right? Like, I don't like to send kids unless they have to go because it just ends up costing the family money. And I'm free for the families. I mean, they're paying it through their taxes, right? That's how I get paid. But the gist of it is they don't see a cost from my services. So I can intervene with a lot of stuff and not burden the family financially.
Does HIPAA apply to athletic trainers too?
It does. Yeah, we are HIPAA trained personnel. I'm also FERPA trained because I'm a teacher. But you end up being that anyways as an athletic trainer in a high school because you are going to see these educational records.
Hurt more around the knuckle. I'm not too sure why.
Can you still close it?
Yeah.
You are
starting to
losing a
hurt
little
more
bit of
around
range
the-
of motion. Let me see.
Starting to hurt more.
Can you at least watch this so you don't get creamed by a foul ball?
Yeah, right there.
You're probably getting a
Right there.
little sore
there.
there.
That
Did
hurt.
you feel this finger go out and then go back? Or did it just feel like it bent back?
It just felt like it bent back.
Okay. You may have sprained some of those tendons and ligaments down in there. It's not a big deal. Okay, the fact that we can still close and open, it's gonna swell and it's gonna feel a little worse as it goes. Okay. Give me just a couple minutes. I'll come in there and we'll talk about
Can I
something
still
else we
run
can
with
do.
like a sliding glove?
Yeah, man, run. But I would wear that slider glove. Okay.
I'm sure we'll probably have to cut
Yeah, I guess
that
that's
out
a good example of what we would have to cut out.
Ah, you didn't hear his name, did you?
No?
No?
HIPAA protected, baby.
All right.
You're fine.
Okay, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's just a jam finger.
Yeah.
But they're pretty painful, you know. Usually it's just a jam finger unless it's pointing the wrong way. That means it's dislocated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a good example of that is I was having some knee problems, and I was about to run that marathon. And
Yeah.
I was really worried. I went to you, and you told
Yeah.
me what it was. Then my mom wanted me to go to the doctor. He told the exact same thing you said.
Yep.
I almost to the word. I said,
Yeah.
okay.
Hey, but I was pretty new at that point. And I don't blame you, right? You had a marathon coming up. We didn't know what was wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't blame you for going. I probably would too, man. How'd that marathon go?
It went really well.
Yeah.
That one went good. I ran an ultra, the 50K, the 31 miler, in January, and that one messed me up for a few weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
I was still feeling some pain in like March.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We didn't really train for it.
Heavy mileage, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
and we went out there and
that's
just
heavy
tried to
mileage.
grit through it, and we did. But I think it messed me up a little bit.
Yeah.
He complained for a few weeks after.
You'd know about that, wouldn't you, Ethan?
Yeah, I wish.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
What about HIPAA, man?
You know. You can complain. That's not a HIPAA violation.
But yeah, I was wanting to ask you about running specifically because that's what
Sure.
me and Ethan are interested in. The difference between what sprinters experience and what long distance
Long
runners
distance, yeah.
experience.
Of course.
What's the different injuries you see?
Well, long distance runners, you run a higher risk of seeing stress-oriented injury, right? Stress reaction, stress fracture, the dreaded shin splint, right? Sprinters see that too, but it tends to be at a higher concentration in, or I should say a higher incidence in long distance kids. Sprinters, most of the time it's muscular strains, and sometimes those are just as bad as a stress reaction or stress fracture, right? Like I've had kids where I chase around hip flexor pathologies for a year before I can nail down what's causing it and how to fix it. And usually it's convincing them to stop run.
Yeah.
You know, rest is not always a bad thing. And rest doesn't mean that you're not training, right? There's ways of training around an injury. It just means that maybe we don't get to do the 4x100,
Yeah.
right? Maybe we focus our efforts in the weight room, or maybe we work on some field events, right? Like, just because I tell you you can't run doesn't mean we can't do something else. Heads up. Hang on.
You said a higher incidence.
Yeah.
Can you explain the difference?
Well, I don't remember exactly what word I used, but incidence would be number of times you see it in a population.
Okay.
Right? So shin splints in a long distance runner population, that's prime for incidence. I don't really remember what else I said, but it wasn't. It was more of like a total number rather than a rate of injury, right?
Talking to baseball can make you lose your memory.
Yeah. Well,
I forgot they said how many, especially marathon runners, how many of them actually have shin splints.
oh yeah. Well,
Like
they
that's-
all probably have them.
Yeah,
right?
because at the races you see them, they all have shin sleeves on.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah. Well, and compression is always helpful, right? It's a very well documented and well researched form of treatment. But it's also a good marketing trend, right? Because they can slap a lot of logos on those shin
Yeah,
sleeves.
fleet feet. You see them all the time at races and stuff. Is running bad for you long term? Because you see older people like the ultras, like me and Sam. We got past at like mile 28. Now this guy, he's probably 7 years old, and he flew past us. And they were older people running the sport, and they were much faster than the younger kids running.
The
So-
thing I'd say to that is that ultra marathons probably have a high rate of attrition, meaning, right, there's probably a lot of people that do like one or two of them,
Yeah.
and there's probably progressively fewer that do more than that.
Yeah.
So if you see a 70-year-old doing it, chances are that dude's a stud because he's
Yeah.
just cruising, man.
Yeah.
Those will be the ones to watch for because I bet you they just fly all the time. But running is hard on you. You know, it's an unforgiving activity. All right, we're all good. You know, there is evidence that tracks the ultra marathoners' exertion rates, and then you can look at like liver enzyme levels and kidney enzyme levels, and they do elevate just because it's such a hard thing on your body.
Yeah.
It's nothing you don't rebound from, but over time, it is hard on you. So you just have to take care of your body and know when to rest.
It can affect the heart too.
It can, yes, yeah, it can. You know, it probably globally affects organs, and you probably see that at a localized level in all runners. Something that's pretty well documented, attaboy, is it's called a hypertrophic right ventricle. Right, that right ventricle is the primary pump for blood in the body. In high-level athletes, okay, that chamber of the heart will be I don't know, like 1.2, 1.2, 1.5 times bigger than like an average heart. Like, what does that mean? But what you see on EKG is you see this little like quiver, right? That heart murmur thing. Sometimes that heart murmur, attaboy, is caused by this just larger valve of the heart. So when it's squeezing in harder and a little bit slower than the other chambers. So it shows up on this EKG. Okay. It's never necessarily a problem, but every time they flag it in a high school kid, they got to go to a cardiologist to make sure that it's not going to be a problematic arrhythmia or anything.
Yeah. Okay.
It's called runner's heart, right, or athlete's heart.
Yeah.
So you mentioned recovery.
Sure.
And that's something a lot of athletes struggle with, knowing when to recover, knowing how much to recover.
That's the everlasting question, man.
Yeah.
It got kind of big when I was in high school. That was when recovery got to be a popular word. And that was when everybody was lugging around a foam roller.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays we have foam rolling, we have massage guns, we have intermittent compression devices, you know, cold tubs. That was what was big when I was in high school, was cold tubs.
Yeah.
You know, and does that work? Sure. I mean, I'm sure it does something, but my general opinion on recovery is that part of it is just having the process. You know, runners like routines. You know, having a routine for recovery is just going to put your head in a space where you're like, okay, I've done my run, I'm going to do my recovery. That means I'm going to be ready for my next run. It's the mental process of it.
Yeah.
And recovery is not universal. Recovery is a customized approach to what you need, right? So if you need another 2 laps of a cool down, go do it, right? If it takes you a day or so to recover from a ultra, take it, right? Just because somebody else doesn't need that doesn't mean you don't.
How do you communicate that, the coaches, to people who are training you? Like, saying, hey, like I had a meet yesterday and my legs hurt. I can't run. How do you communicate that?
Well, a good coach will recognize it, but you got to understand that, right? Sometimes a coach's job isn't just to manage one kid; it's to manage a team of them. So they have to do what's going to be most beneficial and effective for a team. But at the end of the day, right? If you need the recovery, then a good, mature adult conversation with them about like, I know this is what I need. They'll understand.
Yeah.
Right.
Have you ever had to have that conversation with someone? Athletes came to you and said, I don't feel like I can do this, but my coach wants me to. And
I usually just side with the athlete.
Yeah.
And then I have a good conversation with the coach later and explain why I did what I did. At the end of the day, coaches aren't bad people, right? They just may not have all the information. You know, they want what's best for the kids. They just may not know what's going on.
Yeah.
Is hot and cold good? Like hot for the next couple
You're gonna go into contrast therapy.
Contrast.
Sure, you know, does it hurt? Probably not, right? It's like, are cold tubs really that effective? Nobody can actually prove that they're doing something beneficial for you, right? It's an individual approach.
I'm sure there's a bit of a placebo effect to it as well.
There is, yeah. I can fool people into doing some of the craziest things by spinning it off as recovery.
Is Epsom salts a placebo?
No, I think that does actually do something. Now,
I told you, me and Ethan's had this
It may be doing
debate
something at a skin level, not a muscular level. But skin's tissue too, right? Skin can fatigue just as well as anything else. And there's mechanoreceptors and nociceptors, right? So mechanoreceptors sense changes in touch and pressure, and nociceptors sense changes in pain. So tricking the receptors in your skin is actually a good way of kind of fooling the receptors within your muscle cells to kind of mimic that response. So it's a placebo sometimes, but it might be a placebo at a cellular level, which isn't a placebo.
Yeah.
Right? You're changing an effect.
Yeah.
It's like sugar pills, right? Or salt pills. If I give you Tylenol and I give you salt pills, some people won't be able to tell the difference.
Are you pretty well versed in sports psychology?
It's something you kind of pick up as you go. And that's another one, like, I don't think there's a really standard response for sports psych, right? Like, you got to feel out each individual athlete. But that is a growing field, man. And if I could go back, I would probably take a lot more coursework in like the psychology of sport and the psychology of stress. Because that's what sport is, right? It's a really fun version of stress.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta manage it.
Yeah.
Sports psych is I wish I had a little more training in it.
And I think team sports like baseball and basketball make it easier because you have that camaraderie. And cross country is a team sport to an extent, but it's really just you out there, and that makes it harder.
Dealing with your head is
It's hard.
It's all in between your ears, guys. It really is. But cross country is a team sport.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Right, like you score for your team.
Yeah, but
And if you can foster that, right, that's some of your better teams.
yeah, and that's true. But if you're not right there together, right,
Oh yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah. No, if you can't pack run, it's hard.
Yeah,
I hated
sometimes
running against pack runners.
yeah.
Dominating a course, and you're like, I just need to pass you on the left.
my grandma probably. I don't know if he's listening or not, but he likes to get in front of that pack. And when he says that, they just kind of spread out.
They do, because
And
they're
block
trying
you.
to dominate the
And
track.
one time he said that I could not get by for the life. We went on this little narrow.
Just bowl through them.
Yeah.
The
Hello.
best is the wood courses, where sometimes they get to be like, I don't know, 3-4 feet wide, where you really can't. I'm good. Okay. Where you really can't pass people. You just got to bide your opportunities, right?
You see-
Draft off of them, and then make your move when the time comes.
Do you see different injuries with runners around here who run up hills all the time?
Yeah,
Up and down
yeah,
hills.
lots of shin stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of shin stuff. That was one of the things I struggled with when I was in high school. You know, we were pretty rural, hilly county, and our course is literally through the woods.
Yeah.
It's a lot like what y'all's looks like, actually, which is the most fun kind. You know, you're not going to get a stellar time, but
Yeah,
it's
it really
fun
is.
to run through the woods.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's uneven. You know, there's some roots around there, and no matter how much spray paint you put on the roots, somebody's going to step on it and trip on it. So you treat a lot of ankle stuff, a lot of shin stuff. You just got to know what you're getting into,
Yeah.
right? And train where you're going to run,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's cross country. It's not track season.
Yeah.
You're not just running in a circle.
Yeah.
The thing about running around here is people join the teams and say, oh, it's so hilly. And the town wasn't named after
Right.
our,
It's Hillsville,
our
right?
geographical anomalies, but it's so it's Hillsville.
Yeah.
It certainly fits it.
Makes
Yeah,
point, yeah.
because you're going up and downhill, and even like easy run days, we're still hitting.
You're still
Our
hitting
elevation
hills.
change is crazy
Really
because there's
changing.
nowhere to run except the track. That's,
Yep.
You're not going to get tons of elevation.
Well, you still get some with
Yeah.
how the track is.
I think you just learn to love hills.
You
Right?
do,
'Cause
you
hills
really
are
do.
opportunities to crush somebody else's spirit.
Yeah.
Nothing is worse than getting passed on a hill.
Yeah, I agree. Even with our easy runs, we easily get 500 feet of gain.
Almost every day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Watching coaches communicate is sometimes humorous.
Oop.
So Ethan said you come to school at 12 o'clock?
Yeah.
Is that true? What are you doing?
No. 10:30.
10:30.
Way to go, Ethan. Give me a
10:30.
little more credit.
I'm
buddy.
sorry, yeah. I knew you taught the last 2 blocks of school. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
I might. Yeah, hang on. For a screwdriver. Okay. Give me a second, boys.
Problem.
Sorry, guys.
And this episode will probably be released next Wednesday. We're trying to get a week ahead.
Sure. Sounds good.
Yeah. So,
Let me switch with you.
I don't believe I ever gave a certain time, like 12
Oh,
o'clock.
he did. He said right at
I
noon.
don't think I did, but
Hey, I don't blame you.
I said later in the day because you teach.
It is later,
third
yeah.
Third and fourth block, right?
I only have to teach 2 blocks a day because all of my after-school obligations
yeah.
cover the rest of my contract hours.
Yeah.
But there's some days, I'll come in a little early. Right? It helps me get ahead, and it helps me know that kids have what they need.
Yeah.
But if there's a day where I'm here till about 10:30, it might be a little later than 10:30 when I come in.
So, what do you do before school? Do you have any hobbies that you engage in? TV shows that you like to watch? Books you like to read?
So I do enjoy working out, and I obviously have to do that in the mornings.
Yeah.
So I'll usually do some stuff at my little home gym I've got. Sometimes I run. I do have a rowing machine I like to get on.
Yeah.
I think I talked you into doing that.
Yeah,
didn't
you
I?
did. You did.
He got really into rowing for.
Real into rowing. I was afraid I was going to lose him as a runner. But I do like to read. I read a lot when I was in school. Just about anything I get my hands on. Sci-fi, fantasy. Big Lord of the Rings guy.
Really?
Big Lord of the Rings guy.
Have you read The Wheel of Time?
I have not,
Robert Jordan?
but it's on my list.
It's a mammoth.
That was a pretty good. Was it Netflix?
No, I think it was Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. Right. I watched the series. I usually like to read the books first, but that was one I needed something to watch, so I figured I'd
I
watch
have
it.
nothing against Amazon. Well, Amazon Prime shows Amazon Prime show,
Yeah.
but the books are.
The books are good. Yeah. I'm pumped to read that one. It's on my list. I just got to get through some other things first.
Have you read any Steinbeck?
Steinbeck.
John Steinbeck.
Give me some titles.
Me and Ethan are reading
Grapes of
Grapes of
Wrath.
Wrath. Right, actually coming out pretty soon about that one.
When I was in high school, yes. It's been a while though, boys.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
I was
me
more
and
of a George Orwell guy.
Okay, yeah.
I liked those.
I like that. I read 1984 a
liked
few weeks ago.
those. And Animal Farm.
Yeah.
I might go back and read those actually.
Yeah, those are good books.
Me and Ethan are big readers, and every few weeks we're doing book reviews on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I really got this week. They had that free book cart in the gym and in the cafeteria.
They say every week.
Yeah, or every week. And this week I picked this one up randomly, and I had 2 free classes because we got substitutes really. And if Mr. Mitchell's listening to this, he's going to kill me. But I picked up a John Grisham book this week, and I was shocked by it. It's really good. So.
Huh.
But,
Yeah, I like reading. That's one of the things I wish we could get kids to do more of around. Right? Vocabulary is usually an indicator of intelligence, and you increase your vocabulary by reading or being read to.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has a phone or a TV or a game system now. but,
Audiobooks.
You know, you can do an audiobook.
Yeah.
I used to listen to those every day when I rode to work because it's like a 25-minute drive. You know, you can get a good couple chapters in.
yeah.
Okay, so as we're winding down the episode, we have some questions that we typically ask each
Oh,
Every
Lord.
interview. And these are our
These weren't
classic
on the
questions.
list.
yeah. Well, they're impromptu. That's kind of
Yeah.
the point.
Okay.
But,
But
I always like to ask, what's your advice for young students or even young adults just getting started in the world, figuring out what they want to do?
Try as many things as you can, right? And if you don't like something, it's okay, right? You're not going to like everything. Got to find the thing you like.
Yeah.
The next one is definitely read a freaking book.
Yeah.
Read as many books as you can get your hands on. You know, it's more than just vocabulary. It's perspective. It's. We're good. We're good. It's not coming this way.
Okay.
Reading's important.
And the next question is, it's a bit of a doozy.
Well, I have another question before we ask
I'm
that
sorry.
one.
Oh no.
Do you have any? I know a lot of people, like especially athletes, are considering careers like yours, like
Sure.
athletic training, maybe physical therapy,
Sure.
occupational therapy. Do you have any advice for younger students considering a career similar to yours?
As in like how to get into it or how to decide if it's something for them?
Both.
Yeah. Well, shadow people, right? I've never seen a PT clinic that would tell someone, no, you can't come watch me work, right? If they do that, they're probably not very good.
Yeah.
I actually have kids shadow me all the time, and I like it, right? Because the best way to learn is to teach. And you learn every day when you're in high school,
Yeah.
even if you're the teacher.
Yeah. Okay, and then the last one. What's the meaning of life to you?
Wow, that's a heavy one.
Yeah.
But people's response to this question is always kind of, because it's always different.
Yeah.
It's pretty unique.
The meaning to life. Don't sweat the small stuff, right?
Yeah.
Not everything's going to go your way. It's not supposed to. At the end of the day, you work hard, you do what you're supposed to do, it'll all work out in the end. That's how I like to do it.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. James, we'd like to thank you for coming on
Yeah,
this
guys.
evening. It's been an honor.
It's been an honor for me. I'm glad we got you outside. And Carroll County is winning 9-3 against Galax, just in case anybody's
Go
wondering.
Cavaliers.
Great guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.